unfolds, no matter what the future holds, try to keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may call you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. Stand up and be counted. Don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be bad. You gotta be bold. You gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard. You gotta be tough. You gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool. You gotta be calm. You gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. Herald what your mother said. Read the books your father read. Try to solve the puzzles in your own sweet time. Some may have more cash than you. Others take a different view. My, oh my. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta keep cool, you gotta stay calm, you gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. Don't ask no questions, it goes on without you, leaving you behind so you can stand the pace. The world keeps on spinning, can't stop it if you try to. This time it's danger staring you in the face. Listen as the day unfolds, challenge what the future holds. Try and keep your head up in the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. My, oh my. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta stay stronger. You gotta stay cool, you gotta stay calm, you gotta keep together. All I know, love will save the day. You gotta be cool, you gotta be bad, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. All I know, love will save the day. All I know, love will save the day.
You know, I think for a lot of people, not spiritual people, even spiritual people, by the way, oh, these smell good. Oh. Okay, after it's all over, you guys can come up here one by one, social distance, and just breathe. Wonderful. What was I talking about? I'm on a lilac high right now. Love is underrated. You know, even for spiritual people, we kind of like the idea, but we don't understand how really powerful it is. When I think of the things that have happened, it's because of the grace and love of the universe showing up in my life that shifted things and even giving me the inspiration to claim that grace and that love. I don't, but that's just me as an aside. I think the world wants us to, the world is seductive and to do it this way. And very few people take the path of pure love. And those people who do take the path of pure love, we should hold them up as heroes, you know, saints and sages. But few follow that way. And so that's just, I think I'll be talking about that more this month because the theme for this month is to live authentically. And authentically for me means from our depth, from our true self, from our essence. And if we're made by our Creator, and the only thing it had to work with was itself. We are made of love, and our essence is love. And when we can live from that place, we are living from a very authentic and powerful place. But some of you have heard this, but I just really want to share this because LaBon Hardison was here. We were celebrating 100 years. We have been a center for. We've been a center of spiritual teaching. Actually, it was called a Center for Constructive Living to begin with. We've been a center in continuous operation in Seattle for 100 years now. And we had our kickoff celebration of those 100 years. And you know what? I look pretty darn good for 135, don't I? No. I didn't start it. But I told this story during the opening celebration, but I think everybody should know. I think people need to know a little bit of our history and how we came to become the Centers for Spiritual Living. Because our denomination is called Religious Science. And when I got here, the previous minister didn't like to have to explain religious science because people were all weird about religious science. And so he called it the Science of Mind Center. And I changed that because our denomination is religious science. But man, I spent a lot of time explaining what we weren't. And trying to describe us as kind of like unity. Only more law-based. I mean, like, how many of you have ever how many of you have ever been typecast because of something about you? Like typecast because, well, you've done this or you've done that, or you work here, or you have that friend, or you watch that movie, or you listen to that music, so people think they know who you are. Well, having religion and science in the same phrase really typecast us. And so I spent a lot of time explaining to people that we weren't Scientology and we weren't Christian Scientists. So, and people would say, how do I invite people here? Because then they ask us what we are, and we would do workshops on how to explain who we were. So I finally said, well, let's come up with a better name. And I don't know, maybe Sherry was around. And I said, come up with some names. The top 3 names, and then we'll vote on them. And the Center for Spiritual Living kept showing up. Well, that's a good name. And sure enough, when the congregation voted, that was the name. And we adopted it. And I've never had to do those workshops ever again. Because somehow it sort of explains what we're about. We're a center, and we support spiritual living. And I just thought everybody should know that. But I will also need to go back to something I also said that evening when we kicked off our 100-year celebration, is that, honestly, I don't understand why religion and science can't go together. Do you know there's a whole lot of division? I mean, there's division in the world. How many of you have noticed that we seem to be getting more and more divided? Or at least people are talking about it more. I mean, we have vaxxers and anti-vaxxers. And we have right and we have left. No, that's right. Anyway, but it's your left. Anyway, we have so many opinions, and they're so divided. And one of the things that is also very divisional is, should I follow my religion or should I follow my science? But if the intelligence of the universe created both of these systems, why wouldn't they go together? I've always thought that they should go together, and the more I study, the more I see that they do go together. Religion and science go together, which is perfect for me because I loved both religion and science when I was going to school. I would study about other world religions. I thought it was fascinating that they seemed to be teaching the same things that my Christian doctrine was teaching. If you cut out a lot of the traditions and some of the rituals, they seem to be about the same in my mind. And I loved science. I especially loved biochemistry. Which brings me to today's talk. I will spare you from string theory today, which I also think is very fascinating. Quantum physics I love too. But we're going to talk biology. Today's talk title is The Biology of Belief. And is there a biology of belief? The talk title is Biology of Belief, and you might be asking, I should be asking, can I tell you about the biology of belief? That belief creates biology, and biology creates belief. They should go together. Why? Because the intelligence that created one created the other, and why wouldn't it go together? Actually, Judge Thomas Troward said that order was the first law of the universe, so everything should be orderly and fit together. And when order is established, it creates balance, which creates harmony, which creates beauty. And so I think things going together can be a beautiful thing. When we understand how they go together, it can be a beautiful thing. So I'm all about the beauty of it. So I have a few things to share with you. And this, the thing I'm going to share with you is coming from our book of the month, or at least our suggested reading. And if you don't like science, I'm going to save you. I'll just give you the Kathianne's Reader's Digest version because it's pretty sciencey. And it's called Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. And he says, let's take a closer look at what happens biochemically. You had me at biochemically. Okay, what happens biochemically inside your body when you think a thought or feel an emotion? When you think a thought or have a memory, a biochemical reaction begins in your brain, causing the brain to release a certain chemical signals. So everything supposedly, honestly, I think mind uses the brain. He thinks brain creates mind, but God bless him. Anyway, it doesn't matter. When you think a thought, something happens in your brain. How many of you are still with me? You think a thought and there's a synapse. Chemicals are happening. Little neurons are reaching across and synapses are being created. A biochemical reaction begins in your brain, causing your brain to release a certain chemical signals. That's how immaterial thoughts literally become material. They become chemical messengers. These chemical signals make your body feel exactly the way you were thinking. Once you notice you have a feeling in a particular way, then you generate more thoughts equal to those feelings, and then you release more chemicals in your brain that make you feel the way that you've been thinking. So in a way, we say something makes me feel something, but the more we feel it, the more we think it, the more we think it, the more we feel it. How many of you have ever been on that treadmill? And so really I want to talk about, let's see the treadmill so we can get off the treadmill. Because I think hell is the treadmill. Hell is I can't stop thinking this. I can't stop having this feeling. I can't stop. What he would say, the way I would interpret is, I can't stop this biological reaction that I'm having to my thoughts that are causing me to have more of those thoughts. I can't stop it. For example, if you have a fearful thought, you start feeling the fear, and the moment you feel the fear, the emotions influence you to think more fearful thoughts. And then you fire and wire the same circuits in your brain over and over again because you keep thinking the same thoughts, and you're hardwiring your brain to have the same patterns. So here's how I suggest to my students to get off the treadmill. When the thought creates an emotion, whether it's fear, usually they don't come to me because they're happy. People don't come to me because, oh man, I'm just so joyful and I can't get off the treadmill of this joy. Nobody does that. They come to me because they're on the treadmill of fear or worry. How many of you have anxiety, have had anxiety? Do you know there's more anxiety in the United States now? In the last year and a half, maybe because of COVID and just the uncertainty of it, anxiety and depression has skyrocketed, gone up by whoever's making those measurements. I don't know, but they seem to be showing up in news articles that anxiety and depression have gone up like 60%. Who measures that? Somebody. So if you're having anxiety, whether you're anxiety or depression or whatever, that's That's just a trigger that we just don't seem to get off, and it's like it's a chemical reaction happening inside of us that we feel the feeling, and the feelings create more thoughts about it, and then the thoughts create more feelings, and then it gets out of control. So here's one of the ways, because I don't want to just tell you information. I want to give you ways to thrive. My purpose in life is to inspire you and empower you to live in harmony with your world. And that means not just the outer world, but your inner world. In fact, actually, if you live in harmony with your inner world, you're going to be a whole lot happier out there. So how do you get off that treadmill? What I would say, and it's easier when I'm with someone. So let's just do this together, okay? Who would like to play in this room? Who wants to play? Raise your hand if you want to play. Play the game of let's just see how this works. So see how this works. Think of and if I ask you to think of it, you're going to think of it and it's going to start happening. Think of something that you're anxious about, or troubles you, or worries you, scares you, depresses you. What I say to people is go inside that feeling. See, a lot of times this is why people get addicted to things, and why people numb out, why people are watching way too much TV, like Netflix binges, why people do things like cook too much, eat too much, drink too much, shop too much. Because they don't like those feelings. So instead of really healing what causes those feelings, they zone out or get over busy with something else so they don't have to be present to what's going on inside of them. So what I say is when you're feeling this, when I'm feeling this, I actually go into the feeling. Because in that, how many of you have ever thought that those feelings feel almost like a fog, like you're in a fog, or you've got a fog in you? It's like a storm. Something's going on. What I've noticed is if I go into the storm, if I go into the fog, I will find a seed thought. I will find something that I've been telling myself over and over again, and I can't make myself wrong for it, because according to Dispenza, that's just the way the body works. You feel the feeling, and it will trigger the thought. The thought triggers the feeling, and you're on that rope, but on that treadmill. But a lot of times, we don't really know what the thought is. Free-form anxiety. You know what's depressing is not knowing why you're depressed. Now, yes, there are some chemical things that some people can take that will help the depression. And that's when it gets really serious. I'm not against, this is the month where we look at mental illness. I'm not saying don't get help, and some of the help might be chemical. I've known people that have had to go on drugs for a while to get over this thing. But a lot of us aren't to that point. We're just into and it shows up and it's not taking risks. It shows up and it's not being optimistic. It shows up and it's not having faith in the future. It shows up and it's not reaching out. It shows up and it's not being our best. It shows up in us being smaller and smaller and smaller because we're more and more afraid of our world. We don't ask. We don't reach out. So if we go into that feeling, if we just stay with it for a while, and we say to myself, this is what I say to myself, what am I telling myself? I go into the feeling, I say, what am I telling myself? And that will allow me to see the thought that is the trigger for all of this. And then in that moment, and I call it the holy gap, in that moment, I can say, do I want to continue to think this? Is it really true? And most likely your mind will say, yeah. And then I say, because I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. How many of you have heard that? But how many of us live that way? Well, I don't know. If we live that way, I know that I don't live that way all the time. I know that for me, it's a platitude at times. Because if I was really willing to live that way, I would say, if this thought that I'm having is not true of God, it cannot be true of me, therefore it must remove itself. And then I am healed of that thought, and the feeling goes away. It's easier when you're in the presence of someone who guides you through it. But we can do this. You can do it with a prayer practitioner. In fact, next week, we're having spiritual tune-ups where you get to spend some time one-on-one with a prayer practitioner who would love to lead you through that process. Right, Jim? Say yes, yes, yes. So we provide those opportunities for people, but you've got to be willing. Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Because otherwise, the body will just continue to create the same old, same old, same old, same old. And something will happen and you'll get triggered and you go into anxiety and you're not really sure why. Don't avoid emotions. Let them lead you to what you have habitually been telling yourself. And then in that holy gap of recognition, declare yourself free. And also, it's like you may not be able to say, I'm free. I mean, the personality. But so you just say in that holy gap of recognition, because God is in the present moment. When you're in the present moment, say, Father, Mother, God within, whatever you want to call it, big enchilada in the sky, Grandpapa, Holy, whatever, Holy Spirit, whatever, Jesus Christ, Krishna, whatever you want to call it, then just say, take this thought from me that I may be whole, that I may reveal the wholeness of my soul, which has never been conditioned by this thought. Something like that. And let it go. I don't want to see, when I say let it go, I don't need to be glib about this because it can take some real, it has intention. There's some thoughts that I've been having that I have to intentionally say, no, I will not go there anymore. I will not be the victim of that thought anymore. I am free. I'm free in the name of the power of God that lives within me. I am free. So, what Dispenza goes on to say is that those chemical reactions actually create a frequency within us because you know that there's all of this we're electrically charged. That's why we can do certain things to the body. There's little tiny electrical charges moving through our body on those synapses and all those chemicals moving through us. And that's why some of the medicines, acupuncture and acupressure work, is that they shift the way the energy flows. Energy is flowing. And what also happens is that energy not only flows within us, it creates a frequency that moves out from us. So we are little transmitters. And we're transmitting what we think and what we feel. And people pick up to what we think and what we feel. And they resonate to what we think and what we feel, for good or for bad. And if you're thinking, well, that's kind of weird, guess what? I just read that they've proven that sharks navigate the ocean by the magnetic frequencies of the earth. I mean, they're picking up on things. Why don't you think human beings can pick up on things? We do. How many of you have ever been around someone and you got just a feeling from them? Yeah. I remember somebody came to do something at our home. They were going to give us a bid, and I knew immediately I did not want them in my house. I don't know what they were thinking, and maybe I was wrong, but it doesn't matter. I'd rather be wrong and send them away than not listen to myself and something else happen. We pick up on things. That's why some people can find the only alcoholic in the room. And they wonder why they always find the one that won't work. We are always transmitting. And everyone is always picking up. So when you change your belief system and the way you feel, you'll actually change what you're transmitting. So I'll give you an example of that. I went into sales really early. Gee, must have been 24, maybe 25. I don't know. Pretty young. I was working for a company that took school pictures. How many of you have had children with school pictures? We were that. And I actually took the pictures. I was the photographer. But in the summer, there's nothing to do, and so I was usually laid off. But I was given an opportunity to make sales because the principals are still around during the summer. So I was given the opportunity to make sales to schools that had already said no to us, which was just my boss's way of, just keep her busy. Let's feel sorry for her. And I spent like a week dreading it because I felt self-conscious and I hated it. So I would go in like, nobody wants to see me. And sure enough, they didn't. And then I had this epiphany that it was more fun driving through the countryside of Oregon and meeting new people than it would be to be laid off and not be making any money. And I thought, well, then I'm just going to enjoy it. Probably won't last long because I'm not going to sell anything, but I'm going to have a heck of a good time. And I shifted. Do you see that thought that you're going to lose, they're going to say no, and who wants to be told no? That thought got shifted to, I don't even care because it's fun driving around. And as soon as I went into fun, I brought fun with me. People saw me. My closing rate was 95%. With schools that had already told our company no. Now I love, that was in the 70s, how people thought, well, I wonder what she's doing for the sale. Anyway, it's just, do you see how you find that thought, you change that thought, you not only change your biology, because I went from dreading to having fun, and I went from nobody would even see me to people wanting to see me. How we think sends out a vibration, and that's why God says, I go before you to prepare the way. God is speaking as the presence and power of the universe, the law of cause and effect that says, you're the cause, I will go for you and create an effect. And it actually starts in our biology. Well, it actually starts with a thought. One thought can create a whole cycle of effects. The purpose of all religions, this is me going back to me wanting to study religion. But what I found is that the purpose of religions is to elevate the frequency of people, to shift thoughts so they vibrate at a different level, so that they're sending off a different message. And shifting the frequency from muddling through and victimhood to thriving and being in charge of your life. And they use different methods. And one of the methods I want to suggest right now, because sometimes, I have to admit, sometimes something will go off and my thoughts even terrify me. Like I can go down a rabbit hole very quickly. And at that time, I'm going down so quickly that I don't have time to what's the thought here? And so I have a lifeline, and that lifeline is I start to chant. And it's automatic now. I just start chanting. I particularly chose to chant a name of God that works for me. But have you noticed how many religions have chant as part of their tradition? Hindu, Buddhist, they chant. And by chanting, you're giving your mind something to do so that it can't even get on the treadmill. And if you're on the treadmill, it will give you a new treadmill. I don't think it'll heal that. I love the process of finding out what I think, because that gives me a permanent healing. But while I'm afraid and while I'm terrified, the chant will get me off the treadmill for a while. And then I can do my healing work later. So lots of things to chant. You could chant the name of God. You could chant a Buddhist chant, a Hindu chant, Hare Krishna. What I think is so funny or interesting, not funny, but more like interesting, is many Eastern gurus give their students or their disciples or their followers a mantra to recite. And that mantra isn't magic, it's just giving their mind something to do. Jesus told his disciples, just say my name over and over again. Because you're going to have hard times. Just remember me and say my name. Say something that is elevating to you. It could be there's only one life, and that life is God's life. It could be I am cared for by the sacred. It could be that right where I am, God is. It could be omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence. Whatever it is, if it really makes you feel good, remember that thought creates a feeling, and the feeling creates a thought. If it really makes you feel good, if you pick something that elevates your expression and your emotions, then it will kind of lift you out, just like other thoughts will drag you down. Religion and science, they really can go together. And to have them go together, to not say this discounts this, but they really can support each other, will be our road to authenticity. More the rest of the month, but let's just take a deep breath. And I'd like this prayer to be a prayer of revelation. It's almost like you're going to find your own antidote, your own prescription. Let the Spirit of God reveal to you a chant or a word or a phrase that will lift you up when your thoughts start to drag you down. Take a deep breath and just listen. Let the word of God speak. Let that inner wisdom reveal. What is a thought, a word, a chant, a phrase that will be yours? Yours to use when needed. Yours to use when you feel worried or anxious. Yours to use when you get afraid. Yours to use when you start to feel depressed or overwhelmed or terrified or so concerned. What is your personal lifeline to a higher expression of life? Let yourself know that now. Say it to yourself. Say it to yourself. Say it to yourself. And so it is.